the factors that led to that disaster, first, flooding, right? Has has the flooding situation in Accra improved?
No.
Definitely not.
It's a big no.
Yes. Volume, capacity, drainage systems
Yes.
to be able to carry all that water.
Yes.
Those within our neighborhoods would have to be closed. Yes.
Yes.
But then those storm drains or those waterways would be good if they're open and we can use them for transport as well.
Useful.
Yes. Yes.
It's got to be useful.
Yeah. So June 3rd, very regrettable. Yes. Rest in peace to all the gone souls. Yes.
Yes.
To the families of those who lost their relatives, yes,
Yes.
we wish them strength and
Yes.
our sincerest condolences.
Yes, and the survivors.
And we hope we never, and the survivors especially, yes. The movement is not as efficient as it's supposed to be, even though we carry a similar passport.
Yes.
Right? We still get at the borders. It's easier when you're traveling by air, but then how many of the people will be able to afford a plane ticket?
It's obvious that they are another, like they are working differently
Independently
for a
of
different
each other.
agenda.
Yes, but it's gotten to our time. Our generation right now would have to identify what it is that we want and understand how to get it. Then decide amongst ourselves we are going to get it, commit to getting it.
Welcome to the Warrior Kings podcast. This is the best patriotic podcast in the world. Here we talk modest, political, and patriotic. And today is a solemn day. Today is June 3rd. And it's 10 years since the June 3rd disaster. So we have a lot to talk, and I have my great brother, an intelligent and patriotic brother, Niai, Field Marshal Niai, right here. And he looked crownly, my brother.
Right.
Welcome.
Very well. Thank you.
So good to see you with your crown.
It's been a while.
on.
Yes,
Yes.
so we're
So
back.
today to talk about. So we have to start with the June 3rd disaster,
Right.
2015. It's 10 years, 2025. So it's been that problem is actually a perennial problem.
Right.
But the June 3rd, 2015 became the highlight of it. It's
Right.
been the biggest. And still, even a few days ago, we had a flooding in Accra, but that wasn't with fire like the June 3rd.
Yeah.
There were a lot of victims. 154 people died. A lot got injured. About 50 million property got destroyed. Yes. What have we learned from it?
From that.
It's still repeating. It's perennial. Every year it happens. We cry about it. We talk about it. So what have we learned so far? 10 years since the flooding in the city.
Right. Right. Yeah. So starting off, greetings to the viewers out there. Yourself or the technical team. Yes. It would have been nice if we could have a moment of silence for those who passed, just in
Yes,
honor
we should.
of their memory. So
We should.
So we do that a minute.
Yes,
Right.
we should.
Right. Yeah.
There we go.
Right. Anyway, so lessons learned. First, I don't think there's been any lessons learned. Right. It's been business as usual. We just hope and pray things don't go bad, but nothing significantly has changed. How do I mean? The factors that led to that disaster, first, flooding, right? Has the flooding situation in Accra improved?
No.
Definitely not.
It's a big no.
Yes. Filling stations. Do we still have gas filling stations in residential areas? where people live, settlements.
Yes, we do.
Same issue. So I really don't think lessons have been learned. Like I said, we're just hoping and praying disaster doesn't happen any longer. But if it should happen again, God forbid, it's going to be the same or even worse, right? So it's a systemic issue that we've not really taken time to understand and then to seek solutions to. But then it's not surprising. You see, it comes back to the mindset of the people, the circumstances of the people. If you've noticed, Ghanaians have a very big problem with maintenance, right? But then it's not misplaced. It is not by chance that is the situation. In fact, how would you be able to maintain that which is not yours? You protect what is yours.
Yeah.
You see, yeah. So it's that conscious and unconscious sense of ownership, or in this case, lack of ownership, that has created that poor sense of maintenance, right? That responsibility of stewardship over God's creation and our societies is missing because we don't even feel that is ours.
Yes.
So there's been that neglect.
Yes.
Or I don't careism.
There's a disconnect between
That
what
is
is
the
called the
thing.
government and what is called citizenry.
Yes. So there's no popular participation
Yes.
in the governance process. So the people
Exactly.
feel isolated or removed. you see.
Exactly.
And then that's where it gives rise to a condition I call I don't care careism.
Exactly.
Yes. Where people think it's none of my business, so why should I even care? You see.
Yeah.
So that is a real problem. And then again, it comes back to the same issue we've been talking about here, sovereignty. When the people have direct ownership, complete, absolute ownership of their land, their resources, their society.
Especially the system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then they can begin to become proper stewards of that system or of that society. Because then they realize the responsibility is on them
Yes.
to make sure they create a viable
Yeah.
or a conducive environment
To
that is safe
evolve
for
it,
everyone.
yes.
Yes. So until that issue of sovereignty is addressed, these things are still going to continue, unfortunately. So even if you look at the development or the designing of our towns, when it comes down to drainage system, I think right on the show we discussed last time, I said it's not just about creating the drains,
Yeah.
but even the size of the drains
Yes,
matter
matters.
a lot.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
exactly.
So if we know currently we have high volumes of water coming down through the rains, then you should have high volume capacity drainage systems to be
Yes.
able to carry all that water.
Yes.
You see.
Not open.
Not open, you
Yeah.
see. But I don't really mind whether it's opened or closed. In the sense, of course, it makes sense to close it than to open it. But if you look at storm drains in particular, if you look at the one that we have around the Achimota overhead, it's an open storm drain. That has not really caused any problem.
What about Odona?
Yeah, so I was going to juxtapose both of
Yeah.
them,
So
you
what
see
if Odona
the
was
problem.
covered?
So if Odona was covered, the reason with that too is I am looking at how we can kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Right? The volume of water that we have flowing through those are, mind you, those are not gutters. Those are actually
Streams.
waterways for
Streams. Yes.
It will be too small to be a river,
Yes,
but then
yes.
those are waterways,
Yes.
right? Now, I'm looking at the possibility of having water sports created over those. That's for leisure, right? So it shouldn't just be we want to find a way to get rid of the water, so we close everything up. But then those could actually give rise to, like I said, leisure activities like water sports particularly.
Yes.
And I'm very big on that because the Kole Lagoon actually used to be a place where we used to have water sports during
Yes.
the festivals, the Homo festivals.
Could have
yes.
been an alternative means of transport.
Transportation, yes.
From Accra to Circle, whatever.
Exactly. So then that's why I would not be too keen on going for the closed drain system because then you shut off all the access
Okay.
to that. But if it was opened, but then with proper design, regulation, and monitoring, maintenance, yes, we can have a very efficient waterway that can connect all the way to Insawam and even beyond if we open it up, right? So I'm looking along those lines. That's why I wouldn't want a closed drain system, yes. But then again, for the little gutters that we have in the communities, our neighborhoods, those would definitely have to be closed because opening them is not even beautiful.
And
Yeah.
it's too close.
Too small.
too small,
Too small,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
So if we have them sunken,
too
then they
small
could
to
be
make sense.
they could be bigger, and yes. So
Yeah.
those within our neighborhoods would have to be closed. Yes. But
Yes.
then those storm drains or those waterways would be good if they're open and we can use them for
And
transport as
useful.
well. Yes. Yes.
It's got to be useful.
Yeah. So June 3rd, very regrettable. Yes. Rest in peace to all the gone souls. Yes.
Yes.
To the families of those who lost their relatives. Yes.
Yes.
We wish them strength and
Yes.
our sincerest condolences.
Yes, and the survivors.
And we hope we never, and the survivors especially. Yes. Unfortunately, we don't even have a very good mental health system where we can deal with trauma. Help people to recover from the psychological effects.
Exactly.
Yes. So to
Exactly.
the survivors, I wish them strength. Yes. I hope this doesn't really happen any longer.
Yeah.
I hope our so-called leaders would actually rise to the occasion, make sure we say together that June 3rd will not happen again.
Again, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
That's
All
about
right.
it on June 3rd.
All
yeah.
right. Good. So, moving on to a different subject. So, we gotta talk about ECOWAS.
Right.
ECOWAS celebrated 50 years. It was established in 1975.
Right.
Yes, and so they are 50 years, and they celebrated it in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yes, and they made a lot of promises. They talked about a lot of theories they want to implement, and so far, 50 years of the regional bloc. How do we really see it? Aside the propaganda, and in view of the wars ECOMAG have fought and Sierra Leone, Liberia,
Right.
and all, putting them in context. How do you see the regional bloc, ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States?
Right. It's become a useless institution. Useless in the sense it has no use. Right. That's why it's a useless, bogus organization. Yes, it's deviated from very bogus, useless and bogus. Yes, I repeat those again strongly, because if I need to travel from here to Nigeria today, my travel will not be easy.
No, not fluid.
I mean, so then what then? And it's supposed to be the economic community, right,
Yes.
of West African states.
It's on the passport.
But then there's no economic community in the sense.
Yes.
We do not trade with any of our neighbors. Right? We do not share any economic benefits with any of them.
It's only on paper.
So then I wonder what exactly they were celebrating. I actually didn't watch the whole thing because I wouldn't waste my precious minutes on that. Yes, it's like I said, it's clear. Students from Ghana cannot move. In fact, it's easier for students in Ghana to go outside the continent, in Europe and other places, to have access to quality education and to go to other neighboring
Than within,
countries. Right.
yeah.
So basically, movement is not as efficient as it's supposed to be, even though we carry a similar passport.
Yes.
Right. We still get to the borders. It's easier when you're traveling by air, but then how many of the people will be able to afford a plane ticket? So then the majority of it will have to go by road. And that is where the most frustrations are experienced, you see.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, something as simple as a visa waiver for all of us has not even materialized. It's not as efficient as it's supposed to be. So then you'll be asking, what has ECOWAS been up to all these 50 years? And what is there to celebrate, right? And rather than take concrete actions to do something, they go there and make all the nice speeches, all the usual rhetoric.
Rhetorics
But then,
and
yes.
theories.
Go take pictures,
Yeah.
take their per diem, say I was here,
Yeah.
drink their coffees and all of that.
Yeah.
And then it's back to business as usual.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that Alliance of the Sahel states, even though they've been in existence for barely over a year,
Yeah.
they've been able to do much more
Much
than
more.
the so-called ECOWAS has been able to achieve in 50 years.
Yeah.
You see, so I really don't see what they're celebrating. But then it's no surprising again, because if you look at the history of the formation of the ECOWAS, right, it was supposed to be a catalyst to speed up regional integration
Yes.
towards the eventual
Yes.
unification of the continent,
Which is the African Union.
African Union.
Yeah.
But then you ask yourself again, what is the close relationship between the ECOWAS and the AU?
It's obvious that they are anatomy. Like they are working differently
Independently
for a
of each
different
other.
agenda.
Yes.
You see,
Yes.
but they should have had one universal agenda.
Right. There should have been some cooperation between ECOWAS
Exactly.
and AU.
Yes.
So I would have wanted to see delegations from ECOWAS feature at the AU meetings. So it would have been regional blocks coming together
Yes.
at the AU. You see,
to
building upon the
augment the bigger,
exactly. So they
yeah.
would have done all the micro organizations on the regional
Yes.
level.
Yes.
But then when we get to the AU, all of those different regions come together to form
Yes.
that grand union. That's when we would have seen proper
Yes.
progress.
Yes.
You see. But then as it stands right now, it's just like I said, they are mutually exclusive. It's like everyone is doing their own thing.
Exactly.
And I don't see that connection, that synergy between
Yeah.
ECOWAS and then AU. So again, this is a useless and bogus organization, just like the AU is. So there has been conflict, particularly in the West African region, for a very long time. You ask yourself, what has ECOWAS been able to do? Right?
Yeah.
Where right here, when Tinubu was declared president of Nigeria, and before the elections were officially declared, he had been sent to court over the declaration of the results.
Yeah.
Some people felt there was some unfair play, right? So they wanted to challenge the results in court. Now, that was an ongoing case, but then Tinubu had to be sworn in, right? ECOWAS had a very, very full representation at his inauguration. You see, so what happens to the rule of law?
Yes.
What happens to the due process
Justice
and
and
all
all,
of those things? Yeah, it's
yes.
like, to hell with that. You guys can do what you want to, but we'll still go ahead and do
Yeah.
do what we have to. And heads of state representing ECOWAS were present at his inauguration. When Alassane Ouattara sidestepped the constitution and created a third term for himself,
Yeah.
at his inauguration, heads of state of ECOWAS particularly were present at his inauguration, which was supposed to be unconstitutional and
Yes.
illegal.
Exactly.
And they were sitting there smiling and,
Exactly.
in full representation. What are we doing to ourselves?
What do they stand for?
You see?
Yeah.
So then I really don't know what ECOWAS is celebrating in Nigeria over the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
If they were going to be sincere and honest with themselves, there was nothing worth celebrating.
No.
They shouldn't have even had that. All the monies that they spent in having those so-called celebrations would have been better used if we were going to support or sponsor bright but needy students in their education. That money could have started a fund, educational fund, to help some of our people get better,
Yeah.
rather than go to have that fund fair
Yeah.
over nothing.
That would have been
Right.
laudable.
That would have been much
Yeah.
significant here. So at least if we had 20 or 30 students who are going to be sponsored, right, through the monies that were used to celebrate that event, it would have made a much more huge impact than what they did. But yeah, I really don't see the essence of ECOWAS. The framework, the idea that went behind the formation of ECOWAS is still legitimate, right? It's an objective that has not been met yet. That has to be sought after, right? But as it stands right now, I don't think there's anything to celebrate about ECOWAS. Nothing. It's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah, it is. It is. It has been highly incompetent, like the leaders who govern those states
Yeah,
who
it's-
are in the ECOWAS.
Yeah.
But the younger generation can see it through. See. So, what do you think is the way forward
Yeah,
for
so I was going to jump right into it.
West Africans and Africans, especially young Africans?
Right.
I must say there are what can be called new Africans.
Right.
I witnessed that on the 25th of May.
The walk.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I saw a new kind of Africans, both male and female,
Right.
highly empowered.
Right.
See, and I'm hopeful. So I wanna hear your.
What the way forward is, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so it's one thing seeing through all the BS, recognizing the signs and the times, and understanding what must be done in terms of remedial action, right? these are prerequisites. And like you rightfully put it, the youth have been able to understand what it is that needs to be done. But the question here is leadership. Who is willing to take on the responsibility of doing what must be done? That is the problem right now. So you can speak to a lot of people. People can propound theories and suggestions of ways to get this thing done. But then the next question would be, are you willing to do what must be done? That's where it is lacking, right? So it's time for the youth, particularly, to take that responsibility, that this is something we must do for ourselves. And to paraphrase the quotation from Franz Fanon, it says every generation will have to identify what their mission or their destiny is.
Yeah.
Right? And make that conscious decision as to whether to attain it, to achieve it,
Yes.
or to betray it.
Yes.
Right? We had a certain generation that was able to fight and win our independence. We've had the subsequent generations fail us because they had gotten too comfortable with the victory of our so-called independence.
They
rather than,
sold it back. Yeah.
you know, they were not vigilant to keep it and to build upon it. So they lost it. We lost it. But it's gotten to our time. Our generation right now would have to identify what it is that we want and understand how to get it. Then decide amongst ourselves we are going to get it, commit to getting it. And this is what our generation has to do at this time, yes. But then again, you see, it's lacking. Leadership is what is lacking, yes. So then those individuals amongst us who understand the direction we must go must put themselves up front, bring themselves up to the front to lead this charge, right?
So let's put it clearly.
Right.
What you're saying that if you think you know better, you
Step up and do
must
better.
do better.
Yeah. It's not enough to continue ranting and
Just saying it, propounding,
we're tired of those.
preferring the solutions,
Yes.
but not getting involved,
See,
right?
and that's the thing. People
Yeah.
talk is cheap, right?
Yeah.
So people are quick to come
Because it is coming to meet a bright youth,
talk, right?
yes, and you would talk political, and down. He can say, I'm not interested in politics.
Right. Right.
He think he can just live a private life
Right.
without him bothering about politics, and
And the effects of-
politics won't bother
Yeah.
about him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So,
it's a deliberate condition. So it is not that the youth are not interested in politics. What they usually mean by that is, or what they usually mean to say is that they're not interested in partisan politics, because that's what it has been reduced to. And there's a
Yes.
deliberate action and plan.
and we don't need that either. Yes.
Exactly. But then that has been a deliberate plan in the playbook of the system. right?
Divide and conquer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they distract the youth with entertainment,
Yeah.
right? They distract them with the survival mentality. Now, men cannot thrive when they are stuck on survival. And that's what has been done to the people today, particularly the youth.
Yeah.
So they are living hand to mouth. So people's immediate concern is about how to earn a living, how to
The
secure
immediate meal.
how to secure your next meal, right? So then there's not enough time to sit and reflect on national issues or complex issues such as GDP, growth rate, inflation.
Yeah.
People really don't have time to deal with these complexities. you
Yeah.
see. So it will be our duty as revolutionaries to reduce those abstract concepts that we've just mentioned, GDP, inflation, and all of those, into simple, relatable,
Day-to-day
everyday experiences
language, yes.
of the people.
Yes.
You see, when you're able to connect their experiences every day to what it is that they've been hearing every time, these
Yeah.
big jargons with politics and all
Yeah.
that, then they're able to have that direct connection with what is
Yes.
being said.
Yes.
That is when we can bring everybody along and we can have full participation.
Yes. Communication.
Yes.
Breach
Yes.
organization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that's what we need
So
to
I
do right
agree.
now to bring
Okay.
the youth up to speed. Because you remember when we did the community engagement,
yes.
when we went to
Yeah.
Circle.
Go
yes.
on the streets.
Yes.
Yeah. With
So-
the warrior kings. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, people would dismiss most of the youth we spoke to as uninformed or uneducated.
Yes.
But on the contrary, when you listen to the conversation that we had with them, what the boys
They
were
got
pushing
clear
out there,
minds and clear eyes.
very sharp.
No bless.
Very sharp. You see, that's intelligence,
Yeah.
not education.
Yeah.
You see, so we measure people's worth or people's intelligence by how much formal education they were able to acquire.
Yeah, literacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then that is, even with literacy, what we refer to as literacy is the ability to read and write English,
Yes.
not just read and write.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
if someone is fluent, can read and write his native language, we
Yes.
still don't classify him as literate.
No.
We don't see them to be literate. You see, that is the paradox, really.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Brainwashing.
education, intelligence is not a measure of a person's level of formal education. No.
Exactly.
Intelligence here will be how to be of benefit to your people.
Exactly.
That is the mark of
Yeah,
intelligence.
your day-to-day decisions you make,
Right.
you don't only decide it to apply to you,
But to the benefit
you
of your
can
people, your
think
society.
of the next person.
Exactly. That is intelligence.
Yes.
Yes. So it does not matter your
Yes.
formal education level.
Yes.
If your education, your knowledge you think
Yeah.
you've gained does not directly benefit yourself
Yeah.
and your people,
Yes.
then it's useless.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
You
So
can-
we have to recalibrate our measure
Yeah.
of what intelligence is. Yes. And like I said, intelligence should be your benefit to your people. How are you able to be of service to your people, to mankind?
That
is
is
the measure of
why
intelligence.
on this emancipated platform, we say an ignorant person who is patriotic,
Right.
all he does appears intelligent.
Right.
But even an intelligent person
Who is not
who is not patriotic,
Right.
all he does will look stupid.
because he's selfish. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that.
and I agree to that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is some.
So we take the message into the
Yeah.
people. Let's break them down, connect them to the people's everyday experiences, and then they can be able to understand, draw that connection between politics and their everyday life. And then you will not have people say we're not interested in politics, because politics decides every single part of your life, from the
No
moment you wake
matter
up
who
in the
you
morning
are.
till you go back to bed. Every
Yeah.
single part of your life is dictated by politics. You see? And to make it even more interesting, if you're going to define what politics is basically the power relationship between people. The power relationship between people. So if you do not understand your place in society, what we've come to refer to as your social class,
Yes.
then you'll be just moving about and you'll be playing to the advantage of other people.
Yeah.
But once you understand the social class you are in, you get together with your social class,
Yes.
and together you can be able to start taking class action
Yes.
to get what you guys deserve.
Yes.
You see, but that's where people have been misinformed or not informed at all on. So people don't understand the class struggle in Africa, particularly.
Yeah.
Yes. And let me just chip this in as we're discussing the class issue. So I have argued strongly that Ghana does not have a working class. We have workers, but we don't have a working class, right? So workers here are people who, yes, are exchanging their labor for monetary value. That's the arrangements we have right now, yes. But then a working class, yes, workers who are exchanging their labor for financial value, but understand their place in that equation of production and the creation of wealth, right?
Yeah.
Basic economics. So if you're a worker, but you do not control any process of production, then you're
Laborer.
a laborer,
Yeah.
right? Not necessarily a worker, or
Yeah.
not you're not in the working class.
Yes.
You're not a class,
Yes.
you see? And that is the majority of the Ghanaian worker,
Yeah.
or the Ghanaian workers.
The
yes.
class control the means of production.
Production, yes. That is a working class.
Yes.
So, if you look at Ghana currently, our economy is not a productive or a production manufacturing based
It's
economy.
a consumer.
It's a consumer, yes.
Yeah.
And if you claim to be a worker, but you're not producing, you're not manufacturing, then what are you working towards?
You're a laborer.
You're a laborer.
You are the end of the game. See.
You see, and that is a trap the majority of the so-called middle class in Ghana has been locked into. So there's this illusion of what I like to say. There's this illusion of belonging by association. So they think because they have that proximity to the bureaucracy or the aristocrats in this case, they think they are in that same social class, right? So it does not matter how much you are earning in the month. If you lose your job today and there's no paycheck for this month or the next month, how are you going to survive, right? So the so-called working class today are just one paycheck away from being with the poor, the masses of the people. Just one paycheck. But because they have the paycheck and they're able to afford a certain lifestyle, it creates that illusion that they're in a better class or better social class than the rest of the masses. They see themselves to be part of the aristocrats or the bourgeoisie.
There's no economics to it.
No economics to back it, you see. So class is a very serious issue that we have to understand, take seriously. People have to identify their position in that social hierarchy and know how to organize with their fellow classmates and be able to take real action to get things done.
Before you become active within the system you live in, you gotta assess yourself, where you belong within the system. If you like where you belong in the system, then you stay there. If you don't like where you belong within the system, then you work towards it to change it.
Yes, collectively as a class. Yes.
Yes.
And that's what we're looking at. But eventually, the overall objective is to create a society where it's classless. There's been so many arguments about the feasibility of saying, but then I believe in this. That's what we call equity and not equality. So I do not argue for equality because there'll be injustice with equality.
Of course.
But I'm looking
we are
at
not
equity.
the same, but can be treated the same.
So each contributes according to his ability, but is giving according to his needs. Right. What that means in practical terms is everyone should receive food, but we cannot say we're all going to get the same quantity or amount of food because we all have different appetites. Right. Someone might be okay eating one bowl of kinky. Someone will have to have 4 or 5, right? Another might be another might be okay with 2. We're saying equality to say everyone must receive 1 or each person receives 5. Now, not everybody may be able to consume the 5. There might be waste. Some will be okay with 1. So what we're saying with equity is if 1 is okay for you, you receive 1. If another would have to receive 3, because that's what the person needs, not wants, the person should be given the 3. You see? And that's what we're saying we have to promote equity and not equality.
And that sounds socialistic. Or scientific socialistic.
Yes. So I usually don't like to use the tags socialism, communism, capitalism, because then it brings about a lot of argument, right? But then when we deal with the substance of those tags, there's no argument. For instance, people will argue about the feasibility or not of providing quality health care. Some would argue it's expensive, right? But then nobody can argue against the fact that every man and woman, boy, girl, deserves access to quality health care. Everyone deserves that. So you say it removes that monetary value from it and says it's a necessity. That's a difference here when we're dealing with the tags. So I don't care so much about the tags, calling it scientific socialism or capitalism, all of those. We cannot argue against the fact that every man, woman, boy, girl will need access to quality or decent accommodation or to a decent, well-paying, dignifying job, you see. These are things that are universally agreed upon. But as to how to make those things happen is where people get lost in defending or arguing against those tags, you see. So I usually like to take the conversation away from the tags and open it down to the substance of the issues. Let's deal with what the substance is here. Are we all in support or against the fact that we all need good accommodation, health care, education, all of these? These are basic necessities for human beings. So I mean, this is what we need to do. But then again, this will all come down to leadership. Until we have the right minds dealing with these responsibilities, it will just be one big freak show. There's going to be one mess after the other. And yeah, we see where we are at right now. This is a symptom of misleadership or the lack of yeah.